Hello everyone. Welcome to this hands-on practice on intercompany settlement. In this course, we'll walk through the business process flow and operations of intercompany settlement, so you can get familiar with the basic settings and daily operations of this module. Let's start by looking at the overall process of intercompany settlement. First, we have the settlement platform. On this platform, we have settlement condition configuration, transaction direction configuration, document conversion rule, internal document generation scheme, price retrieval rule, and settlement path. These settings are predefined in the system, so we just need to get a sense of them. In daily use, we can use the default configurations. You only need to set the settlement path and price retrieval rule. Next, we'll look at the basic flow settings for intercompany business, including the configuration of basic data. In basic data, we need to set the accounting model, internal customer, and internal supplier, as well as the price retrieval source in the price retrieval rule for intercompany settlement. The system supports different price retrieval sources, like the price retrieval strategy, settlement price list, actual cost price, source document price, source order price, and specified fixed price. Once the basic data is ready, we can start creating intercompany business documents. These include documents of intercompany purchase, intercompany sales, intercompany transfers, intercompany miscellaneous issues, and intercompany production. For intercompany sales, we'll focus on creating the intercompany sales goods issue document. After the goods issue document is approved, the system automatically generates the corresponding intercompany sales goods issue and purchase receipt documents based on the settlement platform. If the business is not across legal entities, the system generates multi-step transfer out and transfer in documents. At the end of the month, or periodically, the system performs intercompany settlement to create a settlement statement. During settlement statement creation, the system generates the corresponding AR settlement statement. The AR settlement statement can be converted to accounts receivable and subsequent receipts. The AP settlement statement can be used to generate corresponding accounts payable documents and payment notes. This is the overall process of intercompany settlement. Now, let's take a look at the business process flow for intercompany sales using this example. Sales company A places an order, and production factory B manages supply and inventory, supplies sales company A, and generates shipping notices and sales goods issue documents. When a sales goods issue document is approved, the system generates a corresponding intercompany sales goods issue document for production factory B, a purchase receipt document for sales company A, and a sales goods issue document for sales company A. During settlement statement creation at the end of each month, the system generates intercompany AR and AP settlement statements, along with accounts receivable documents, accounts payable documents, receipt documents, and payment notes. For an external customer, the system generates the accounts receivable document and receipt document based on the external sales goods issue document. Next, let's see how this is done in the system. We are now in Intercompany Settlement Workbench. Here we can see an overall flowchart for intercompany settlement. It is similar to the flowchart we saw earlier. Below is the configuration flow for intercompany settlement. Starting with settlement condition configuration, then transaction direction configuration, internal document generation scheme settings, settlement document mapping configuration, and custom dimension configuration of settlement price list. Let's take a look at settlement condition configuration. The system comes with predefined settlement conditions for common intercompany business documents. You can use them directly, and there's no need to modify them unless there are special requirements. This is transaction direction configuration. Every document has a forward or reversal transaction direction. Now let's move on to internal document generation scheme. This is what we use to generate intercompany transaction documents. You can use the predefined settings directly. Next, let's look at settlement document mapping configuration. If a user doesn't have access, grant the general mapping configuration permission so the page becomes available. These mappings are already predefined in the system. If there are no special requirements, we don't need to change anything. This is custom dimension, configuration of settlement price list. This is only required when the price list is matched based on custom fields. Let's move on to settlement pricing rule. The system provides a predefined pricing rule. We can also create settlement pricing rules as needed. Set name. Supply settlement organization, demand settlement organization, and currency source. We can choose from multiple currency sources, including functional currency of supply settlement organization, functional currency of demand settlement organization, transaction currency for internal customer, transaction currency for internal supplier, source business document currency, source order currency, and specified fixed currency. In this demonstration, we select source business document currency. We have source of exchange rate field here. If the settlement currency is different from the specified currency source or the business document currency, exchange rate conversion is required. Here, we need to set source of exchange rate to specify how the exchange rate should be calculated. In the pricing information section, we set the effective date and configure the filter dimensions. We can filter by business document, transaction type, material category, or material. If we don't select any dimensions, the rule applies to all data. We have settlement pricing source here. The system provides multiple options, including price of source business document, price of source order, specified price, actual cost price, settlement price list, settlement pricing strategy, latest receipt price, latest issue price in previous period, beginning weighted average cost price in current period, and source business document amount. In this demonstration, we select price of source business document. We then set markup rate field. We can configure a markup or markdown rate, or leave it unset. For example, we can set a 10% markup or a 10% markdown, and then set fixed markup price field to 5. Next, we set tax rate source. Options include tax rate of internal customer transaction, tax rate of internal supplier transaction, tax rate of source business document, tax rate of source order, specified tax rate, and default tax rate of material. When we select specified tax rate, we can specify a tax rate here. Enter a name and click Save. We can also disable or enable the rule. The system already includes rules with a 10% markup and a 10% markdown. Next, let's take a look at settlement path. The system comes with two predefined dynamic settlement paths. Predefined dynamic settlement path, cross-legal entity, and predefined dynamic settlement path, non-cross-legal entity. Predefined dynamic settlement path, cross-legal entity, means that the two organizations belong to different accounting organizations under the legal entity accounting system. Predefined dynamic settlement path, non-cross-legal entity, means the two organizations belong to the same accounting organization. When we enable dynamic path, the system automatically matches the corresponding supplier and demand organizations based on the intercompany transaction. Here, we have internal document generation scheme. Below, we can see the document generation schemes used to generate intercompany transaction documents. These are the matching conditions for the settlement path. This settlement path is used only when these conditions are met. For example, condition dimension is cross-legal entity and condition value is yes. On Accounting System Information tab, we set the pricing rule used in the accounting system. When accounting system is set to cost accounting model, we can set pricing rule to retrieve the price from the source document plus 10%. When accounting system is set to legal entity accounting system, we can select another pricing rule. These are settlement paths predefined in the system. If the customer has special requirements, we can add a new settlement path. When adding a new settlement path, we can choose between a static path and a dynamic path by setting dynamic path. When dynamic path is enabled, we don't need to specify the supplier or demand organization. When it is disabled, we need to set supplier business organization and demand organization, business organization. First, you need to set transaction direction to forward transaction or reversal transaction. For example, we select forward transaction for a sales goods issue and select reversal transaction for a sales goods return. Here we select forward transaction. Next, we set supplier business organization to organization A and demand organization business organization to organization B. In the settlement path details section, supplier business organization and demand organization business organization fields are automatically populated. Here, we set the supplier sales organization. When an intercompany transaction document is generated, the sales organization of the intercompany sales goods issue is used as the supplier sales organization. We also set supply inventory organization and supply warehouse. These fields are required for generating an intercompany sales goods issue document. Here, we have demand organization, business organization, demand organization, purchase organization, demand inventory organization, and demand organization warehouse. These fields are required for generating an intercompany purchase receipt document. To generate an intercompany goods receipt document, we can also modify demand organization, purchase organization, and demand organization, inventory organization as needed. We set demand organization warehouse. Here we select an intercompany transaction document generation scheme. We can select a predefined scheme, then select a purchase receipt document generation scheme, and an external document generation scheme. Click Save. The system shows a prompt indicating that the internal customer and internal supplier haven't been created yet. we can create them later. For now, we don't take any action and continue to save. We can either configure these settings first and then save, or save now and come back to configure them later. For the settlement path, if there are no special requirements, the matching conditions can remain unchanged. In this case, the system will match this settlement path as long as the supplier business organization and demand organization business organization meet the conditions. Make sure to configure accounting system, supplier settlement organization, demand settlement organization, and pricing rule. We select legal entity accounting system because the two organizations selected earlier are involved in an interlegal entity transaction. After the selection, the system automatically sets the settlement organizations to the supply organization and the demand organization by default. We then select a pricing rule. Settlement price list is optional. If we select a settlement price list, prices will be retrieved from the list. If we don't select one, the system will dynamically match the price list. Next, let's take a look at intercompany transactions. Before we start, we first need to clarify the supply organization and the demand organization involved in an intercompany transaction. For example, if we want to create an intercompany sales goods issue with A as the outbound inventory owner and B as the settlement organization, then A is the internal supplier and B is the internal customer. Therefore, we need to set the internal supplier and internal customer first. We go to the supplier page. In the list, an internal business unit has already been created as a supplier for this organization. This is a predefined record. We can also create a new business unit. When creating it, make sure to associate the internal business unit with the corresponding supply organization. After the configuration, click Save, Submit, and then Approve. After that, we proceed to create an internal customer. After creating the internal supplier, we need to assign it to the corresponding demand organization. In this scenario, Kingdee China Manufacturing Company acts as the supplier. If it does business with Kingdee HK Trading Company, which acts as the demand organization, then the internal supplier must be assigned to Kingdee HK Trading Company. On the customer page, we create a customer called Kingdee HK Trading and set its internal business unit to Kingdee HK Trading Company. Then click Save, Submit, and Approve. After the internal customer and internal supplier are configured, we go to Default Warehouse for Intercompany Transaction Document page. This is because when an intercompany purchase receipt document is generated using the default dynamic path, a virtual warehouse is required. Here, we specify the default warehouse for the organization. Next, we'll create an intercompany business document, such as an intercompany sales goods issue document. The sales goods issue document can be created directly or converted from a sales order. For example, on this sales goods issue document, the inventory organization is Kingdee China Manufacturing Company, and the customer is an external customer. In material details, the sales organization is Kingdee HK Trading Company. The outbound inventory owner is Kingdee China Manufacturing Company, and the settlement organization is Kingdee HK Trading Company. At this point, the conditions defined in the intercompany settlement condition configuration are met. The outbound inventory owner and the settlement organization are different settlement organizations, so intercompany settlement is required. The quantity on this document is 100. The tax-inclusive unit price is HK$ 3,000. The actual tax-inclusive unit price is HK$ 3,000. We click Save, Submit, and Approve. After approval, we click Query and select Document Relationship Diagram. We can see that 3 intercompany transaction documents have been generated. If the system failed to generate intercompany transaction documents, we can go to the Batch Generation of Intercompany Transaction Documents page, set the filter conditions, and click Query to check the failure reason. The inquiry results show that all documents have been generated. This means the process was successful. If there are any failure messages, we can click them to review the reasons. In this scenario, everything has been generated successfully. Next, we go to Settlement Statement Creation page. Here, we set Accounting System to Legal Entity Accounting System. These are the settlement intermediate results. These 2 documents are intercompany business documents, so they appear in the settlement intermediate results. The price has been retrieved. In the settlement path configuration, the settlement rule we selected is based on the price of the source business document. Specifically, the source document price is used and then marked up by 10%. The source document's unit price is HK$ 3,000, and after the 10% markup is applied, the tax-inclusive unit price becomes HK$ 3,300. Here, we can see that the price is retrieved from the source business document. Click Generate List. An AR settlement statement and an AP settlement statement are generated. Here we have 2 documents for which no price is retrieved, so the system prompts that the settlement statement cannot be generated. For the other 2 documents, prices are retrieved, so the settlement statements can be generated properly. Go to the AR settlement statement page and verify the data. Check the price data. The system has generated settlement statements for 2 goods issued documents and the corresponding intercompany transaction documents. After confirmation, click Save, Submit, and Approve. Then we can proceed to convert to accounts receivable documents. For the AP settlement statement, we can proceed in the same way. We won't repeat the operations here. That is the business process flow of intercompany settlement, ending with AR and AP settlement statements and AR and AP documents. Next, we can query intercompany settlement reports. Including intercompany transaction document inquiry report, intercompany settlement profit analysis, and intercompany settlement reconciliation details. You can click to view each report individually. We won't go into detail here. This concludes the introduction. Thank you.